Hayaya tatanaka mamanaka. Yuspaharwa jutawita jutaptaja akaru fiestaru. This is the Aymara language. And this is the translation. This is the language of my family. This is the language of my parents, the language of my grandparents, the language of all my ancestors, the language of my family. And you know what's a pity about it? I don't speak the language of my family. However, my language is not dead. There are more than 2 million people in the world that have Aymara as their mother tongue. Here you can see Aymara speakers in Bolivia, more 1.5 million. And there are missing 2 more data. Peru, Chile, and also some thousands in the north of Argentina, in Salta and Jujuy. But this is not happening with other languages in the world. Some of them are simply dying. Let me start this presentation with my personal story. I was born in Bolivia, and when I was a kid, I was involved in Bolivian folklore, as you can see here. Yeah, that's me. Then at the age of 4, we moved to Spain. And in a couple of years, I completely changed. I had completely changed. I didn't like going with my parents to traditional Bolivian festivities. I grew up feeling like I was alien to or related to my country of birth. But at the age of 22, through a friend, I went to some practices of Bolivian folkloric dancing. And then I loved it since the very first moment. It was like it had always been in me, in my blood. I don't know why, but I loved it. And since then, that became my passion. And wherever I go, wherever I live, I show my passion. In New York, in Paris, and in Brussels, at the Multiculti. As a Bolivian raised in Europe, I can feel the difference. I can see how different is our generation regarding traditions in different parts of the world. In Bolivia, traditions and culture are fundamental, are absolutely important. But I see in European and industrialized cities that they are losing traditions every year. So many traditions that simply fall into obscurity. I'm not referring to traditions, common world traditions such as St. Valentine's, Santa Claus, no. I'm referring to those particular traditions of each community and region. Traditions that if new generations do not maintain or evolve, which is important to evolve the traditions, they will simply die. I'm not talking about culture as fine arts. I'm talking about common culture, popular culture, conventional culture. Take this as an anecdote, something anecdotal. For instance, is what appears when you type in Google Images, Belgium traditions, the country where we are, and Bolivia tradition. And here we have the result. If you type Belgium traditions, you can see some traditions. You can see some Christmas too. But you can see also bird, some glasses, some cantener's plays. But if you take Bolivia traditions, you can see so many Bolivian folklore, some rituals and traditional costumes, and also we have also Christmas. This is haka. This is the word dance, a traditional ancestral word dance from the Maori people in New Zealand. This dance is very famous because the New Zealand rugby national team performs it before starting their matches. I think it's an absolutely fabulous way to keep a tradition. Because rugby is so popular, and because they are the world champions of rugby in a so popular sport. But we have to take also into account that not all traditions are conceivable for our society, some of them not. For example, in Spain, in a village in Zamora, there was a tradition that the most famous version says is more than a century old. This tradition consisted in throwing a goat from a bell tower in honor of a saint, San Vicente. Obviously, at that moment, the goat died. Then the tradition evolved, and they threw the goat and the goat fell into a mattress. And today, the tradition is forbidden. On one side, you can see that the tradition had an evolution. But on the other side, I'm not going to defend that tradition, because at that moment, that was torture of animals. For me, that was torture of animals. But we have to understand also that certain traditions were adopted because of the mentality of the moment. We have to try to get into their skin and understand how society was at that moment. So the question could be now, what can I do? What can you do to preserve, to maintain traditions? A couple of weeks ago, a really good friend of mine came, a quite unusual friend, a very active friend, came and gave to me, hey, Juan, I'm going to give you this CD. This CD is music from Africa, Caribbean, and Pacific countries. This is culture. So record it and pass it to someone else. Wow, when I received it, I said, wow, thank you very much. I mean, in that simple fact, in that simple action, he gave me the popular culture I'm talking about. Another way, did you ask yourselves, what is the meaning of the colors of your country's flag? Did you ask why that shield? Why that star? Why that animal? Why? That's again the popular culture I'm talking about. So now, my suggestion is, enjoy that culture that you are identified with. It's not necessarily the culture of your homeland. Maybe you have your heart, I know some of you, that you have your heart in Africa. You have your heart in Indonesia. You have your heart in South America. So then go there, enjoy those traditions and culture. Enjoy those traditions with the locals who inherited that wonderful legacy. And don't let those traditions die, keep them alive. And maybe in that search or enjoyment, you will find a passion as I found it. Maybe you will fall in love as I fell in love. I'm a really lucky guy because I'm in love with the culture and traditions of my birth, of my country of birth. And if God wants, in the future, I will spread this very same idea in another talk in the language of my family, in the language of all my ancestors, in the language of my grandparents, the language of my parents. But for the moment, let me thank you in the language, in the Aymara language. Hayaya Hikisinkama.